I came back from Syria in the fall of 2022. The desert still clung to my skin like it didn't want to let me go. My back was racked from an IED blast. Nothing dramatic, not the kind of thing they write articles about, just enough to make me a little slower, a little stiffer, a little more like a man twice my age when I rolled out of bed in the morning. I didn't complain. I was one of the lucky ones. I still had all my limbs. I still had a heartbeat. And I had Lena. That's what I kept telling myself, that as long as she was there, I could handle the rest. Lena and I had been together since I was stationed in Georgia back in '08. She was a combat medic in the National Guard when we met. Tough, sharp, with eyes that could pin you in place and a laugh that could melt you just as fast. I was younger, more restless back then. She was the first person who ever made me feel steady. We got married in a courthouse during a 4-day leave, no fancy dress, just her in jeans and a ponytail, me in uniform with sand still in my boots. It felt right. Real. For a long time, we were solid. Not perfect, no one is, but solid. We had our kid, Maria, in 2012. I did 3 more deployments after that, and every time I left, Lena swore she'd hold things down, and she did. Bills got paid, kid got fed, house stayed standing. That's more than most guys I knew could say. So when I came home this last time, broken and walking like an old man, I didn't expect fireworks. I just wanted peace. I wanted her. I wanted my family back. But something had shifted. I felt it almost immediately. It wasn't in the big things. She still cooked breakfast on Sundays, still kissed me on the cheek before work, still asked how my back felt after long days at the shop. But there was a distance, like she was in the room but never really with me, like her eyes were scanning through me as if I was a ghost still lingering from a war she'd already buried. She started working longer hours at the clinic. That made sense. She'd gotten promoted, was in charge of scheduling, payroll, all that. She said the new owners were demanding more. I believed her. I had no reason not to. But it wasn't just the hours. It was the tone, the way her phone was always face down, the way she smiled at texts she wouldn't let me see, the way she'd leave the room when a call came in, even if it was just for a minute. I told myself I was paranoid, that maybe my brain hadn't fully adjusted to peacetime. I'd seen what suspicion can do to a man out there, how it poisons your gut and makes you see threats in every shadow. I didn't want to bring that home with me. I wanted to be the man she needed, the father Maria could rely on, not some broken veteran looking for betrayal in every silence. But some nights, silence was all there was. She stopped sleeping beside me, said my restlessness was keeping her up, that she needed space. She started sleeping in the guest room, just for a while. I agreed. What else was I going to do? Tell her she was wrong for needing sleep? I told myself this was just a rough patch, that we'd get through it, that once I was back to full-time work and we had a little more money, we'd take that trip she always talked about. Maybe Arizona, maybe somewhere with red rocks and sunsets that stretched for miles. I was hanging on to that dream like it was a life raft. But the truth was, I was already drowning. I started noticing things, not big things, but just patterns. The way she started using new body spray, one I'd never smelled before. The way she wore new lingerie, but never around me. The way she'd come home with damp hair, even when it hadn't rained. Once I found a gym towel in her trunk, a men's towel, different color than any of ours, still damp. She said it was from a new fitness class she was taking with coworkers. I nodded, said, okay, but something inside me twisted hard. I didn't have proof, just gut, and I've learned to trust my gut. It saved my life more times than I can count. Still, I didn't act on it. Not then. Because in some ways, denial is softer than truth, easier to sleep next to. I didn't want to believe that while I was out there getting shot at, losing friends, waking up in cold sweat from dreams I couldn't shake, she was building a life without me. A life that didn't have a place for a broken man with too many memories and not enough light left in his eyes. But the storm was coming. I could feel it in the way she stopped saying "I love you" back, in the way she looked at her phone like it held a better version of her life than I ever could. And deep down, I already knew.
I wasn't proud of it. I'd never been that guy, the one who checks phones, tracks locations, sets up cameras. I believed in privacy, in trust, in giving someone the space to be their own person. But something about Lena's eyes lately, they didn't match her voice. She said, "I'm just tired," but her eyes lived alive in a way I hadn't seen in months. Like there was someone waking her up again. And it wasn't me. It started one Thursday night. She said she was staying late to cover for a coworker who called out. Said she'd be home by 11. I believed her. I even made dinner, kept it warm, waited. But 11 came and went. Then midnight. No text. At 12:43 a.m., she finally walked in. Hair wet, cheeks flushed, the smell of someone else's cologne barely masked under a burst of body spray I'd never smelled on her before. She kissed me on the forehead, said, "Sorry, emergency at the clinic," and headed straight to the shower. I didn't follow. I sat at the table, staring at her untouched plate of food like it had something to say. The next day, I bought a small camera. One of those cheap ones you can hide in a lamp. I didn't do it out of revenge, I did it for clarity. Because I couldn't take the guessing anymore. My mind was like a battlefield, noise, flashes, suspicions detonating in my skull every time her phone buzzed or she said the word work without looking me in the eyes. I placed the camera in the living room, angled toward the front door. Nothing fancy. I wasn't trying to catch her naked. I just wanted to know who came into my home when I wasn't around. A week went by. Nothing. Just silence, shadows, and her pacing. She talked on the phone sometimes, too quiet for the mic to pick up. She laughed, a soft laugh I hadn't heard in months. She moved like a woman waiting for something, someone. Then came Friday. She told me she was going out for a girls' night, some casual dinner with a coworker named Alicia. Said they'd get drinks, blow off steam. I nodded, smiled, even gave her a kiss. She wore makeup she hadn't worn in months, eyeliner sharp, perfume strong, dress tight. It didn't look like dinner. It looked like a promise. I left too. Told her I was grabbing beers with Eddie, my buddy from the shop, but I didn't go far. I parked 3 blocks away and waited. I don't know what I thought I'd do. Follow her? Show up and cause a scene? No. I just wanted to see who she became when she thought I wasn't watching. At 8:17 p.m., my phone pinged. Motion detected. I opened the app, heart pounding. She came in first, alone. Dropped her purse on the couch, paced, checked her phone. 3 minutes later, someone else walked in. It was a man, tall, lean, with a shaved head and gym clothes. I'd never seen him before. She didn't introduce him like a friend. She didn't offer him water. She didn't even speak. She just walked up and kissed him. Fast, hungry, like they'd done this 100 times. My screen went still, but my body didn't. I was gripping the steering wheel so tight my knuckles went white. He grabbed her by the waist, spun her toward the hallway, toward our bedroom. She didn't hesitate. They disappeared from view. I sat there, in the truck, breathing like I'd just run 10 miles uphill with full gear. My mouth was dry, my chest ached. It wasn't just the betrayal. It was the ease of it, the routine of it. She knew exactly what she was doing. No hesitation, no guilt, just muscle memory. I watched for 2 more hours. watched as they came back out, laughing, her hair a mess, his shirt inside out. He kissed her neck while she locked the door behind him. She watched him leave, then she sat on the couch and opened her phone, texting like nothing happened. Like I didn't exist. I didn't go home that night. I slept in the truck, if you can call it sleep. I just sat there staring through the windshield, thinking about the smell on her skin, the echo of her laughter, the fact that while I was out there dodging mortars and stitching together a broken back so I could come home and build a life, she was giving that life to someone else in my own bed. But it wasn't over. The next night, Saturday, she said she was going to the gym late. New routine, she claimed. It helps me sleep. At 9:34 p.m., the camera caught someone else walking in. This time, it wasn't a man. It was a woman. Short, blonde, confident. She kissed Lena at the door, soft, familiar, fingers brushing the back of her neck like they'd done this before. I watched my wife pull her inside with both hands. They sat on the couch, drank wine, laughed, then kissed again. And again. Then disappeared down the hallway. The same hallway, the same damn bed. I didn't move, didn't speak. Just stared. First the man. Now the woman. Different bodies, same betrayal. And I realized it wasn't about who. It was about what. The thrill, the escape, the lie she chose over the man who came home to her in pieces, trusting she'd hold those pieces together. She didn't choose him. She didn't choose her. She chose not me. And that was worse than anything I saw.
I didn't plan the confrontation. I didn't rehearse what to say. There was no script, no cathartic outburst waiting to happen. It just spilled out of me like blood from a wound I couldn't close anymore. I came home Sunday morning after a full night of driving. Nowhere to go, just circling highways and praying for numbness that never came. The moment I stepped inside, I could smell the trace of last night's perfume lingering in the air. Not Lena's, hers, the woman, the second one. Lena was in the kitchen, barefoot, hair damp, making coffee like it was any other quiet morning in our home, like I hadn't just watched her undress herself for two different people in two different nights in the same space where we used to say "I love you" over burnt toast. She looked up, smiled slightly. "Hey, you're up early." I didn't answer. I walked past her, grabbed the small camera from the lamp in the living room, unplugged it, and dropped it on the counter in front of her. Her smile faded, not from fear, just recognition. She stared at it, then at me. "So that's how you know." My voice cracked the silence like a distant rifle shot. "You weren't even gonna deny it?" She shook her head slowly. "Would it matter?" Would it matter? I wanted to scream. Of course it mattered. It was everything. It was our life. It was me. But I didn't scream. I couldn't. My throat felt like it was full of ash. "How long?" I asked. She took a sip of coffee. Didn't look away. "The guy, 6 months. The woman, longer." I felt the words like ice in my gut. 6 months, longer. The math ran through my head on its own. While I was going to physical therapy every other day, while I was limping through part-time shifts to help pay her school loans, while I was smiling at her across the table thinking we were healing. "Why them?" I asked, quieter this time. "Why anyone?" She stared into her mug like she was reading something in the swirl of cream. "Because I felt invisible, Tony. Because I needed to feel wanted again, seen, not just safe." That last word, safe, hit like a punch.
I gave her safety. I gave her everything I had left. I dragged it out of the hell I came from and laid it at her feet. And it wasn't enough. It never was. So you let strangers see you, and you let them fuck you because I wasn't what? Exciting enough? Loud enough? Broken enough? No, she said calmly, because you never asked me if I was happy. I laughed. Actually laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was so insane, so backward. You didn't ask me? I loved you. I came back for you. I was learning to walk again for you. Do you know how many nights I stared at that ceiling thinking I didn't deserve someone like you? She finally looked at me, and her eyes weren't angry. They weren't even sad. They were blank. That's the thing, Tony. You never believed you deserved me, and I got tired of trying to convince you otherwise. So that was it. All the therapy, the sleepless nights, the letters I wrote her from base, the pictures I kept in my locker, the promises I whispered to myself while bleeding into sand, none of it mattered. She didn't leave me because I stopped loving her. She left me because I didn't love me the way she wanted to be loved by me. I stood there in the kitchen, heart collapsing in on itself, and said the only thing I could. I'm leaving. She didn't cry, didn't ask me to stay, didn't even ask where I'd go. She just nodded, calmly, like she'd been waiting for this moment longer than I had. Okay. One word. Just like that. Okay. And in that word was the full weight of everything we used to be, folding into silence. I packed a bag. Just the essentials. Boots, a jacket, some clothes, my dad's old Zippo. Left the rest. I walked past the living room where our photos still hung. Us smiling on beaches, in hospital gowns, at Christmas parties. I didn't take them down. I didn't tear them up. I let them stay, as proof that even a perfect-looking life can rot from the inside without a sound. When I stepped outside, the sky was gray. It had just started to rain. I didn't have a plan. No destination, no backup. I just drove. Not away from her, away from who I'd become while trying to hold on to someone who already let go.
I didn't shout. I didn't break anything. I didn't write her a long letter or post some bitter truth online. I just left. Quiet, measured. Like I used to move clearing buildings, one foot in front of the other, breath low, eyes forward. I didn't tell anyone. Not my brother, not my CO, not the guy at the auto shop who used to ask how Leanna was doing every time I came in for an oil change. I didn't want sympathy. I didn't want anyone looking at me like I'd been gutted. I just wanted out of that house, out of her orbit, out of the version of myself that kept swallowing silence like it was bravery. I booked a cheap motel off I-85, the kind with buzzing lights and thin towels, where no one cares if you check in with just a backpack and eyes that won't stop blinking. I stayed there for 2 weeks, didn't turn the TV on, just sat most nights on the edge of the bed, staring at the wall, listening to cars pass like waves. I didn't cry. I didn't scream into pillows or punch drywall. I just sat there, hour after hour, trying to understand how someone who knew every scar on my body could still choose to betray me like that. I thought about the man, then the woman, then the way Leanna looked at me when I said I was leaving, like I was already a memory, like she'd already rehearsed that moment 100 times in her head. I couldn't hate her. I wanted to. But hate takes energy, and I didn't have any left. Eventually, I found a room for rent in a quiet neighborhood just outside of Macon. The ad said, "No questions, no noise." Perfect. The landlord was an old vet named Frank, Vietnam. Had that same hollow steadiness in his voice that told me he'd seen too much and now preferred quiet. When I handed him the deposit, he didn't ask why I looked like hell, just said, "Rent's due on the 1st. Keep your boots off the porch." I told him, "Yes, sure." He nodded, like that was enough. I started working nights, security at the shipping yard. Long hours, little talk.
Just me, flashlights, cargo crates, and the sound of metal settling in the dark. I liked it. There was a strange peace in it. No one knew me there. No one expected me to smile. At the end of the shift, I'd drive home through fog and back roads, stop for black coffee at a gas station that never changed its prices, then sit on the porch of that small creaking house and watch the sunrise, like it was proof that something still worked in this world. I deleted Leanna's number, blocked it first, then deleted it. I erased our photos from my phone, one by one, not because it helped, but because it stopped me from checking if she'd texted. I knew she wouldn't, and I think that hurt more than if she had. It meant she never even tried to make it right. She let me go like a breath she'd been holding too long. Nights were the hardest. That's when the old memories came knocking, not of war, but of home, the soft parts. Her hand on my chest in bed. The way she used to trace the edge of my scar with her finger like it was something sacred. Her voice saying, "Come back to me." The night before I left for that last deployment. I came back, and she didn't wait. I didn't date. I didn't try. I wasn't ready to be touched by anyone who didn't know what it meant to hold something broken and still call it whole. I didn't want someone to fix me. I just wanted space to stop pretending I was fine. Some nights I wrote in an old notebook I found at a thrift store. Just small things. A sentence, a thought, a line I heard in a song. Most pages are empty, but the ones that aren't, they're honest, raw. Not for anyone else to read, just me, so I could remember that I still exist. I didn't become a better man because she broke me. I didn't rise like some phoenix from ashes. I just kept going. Not forward, not back. Just on. That's the thing about betrayal. It doesn't end you. It just rewrites who you are when no one's watching. And no one's watching now.
It had been almost 6 months. I hadn't said her name, hadn't heard it, hadn't let myself go anywhere near the hospital or even the part of town we used to live in. I'd built distance like a trench, deep, wide, and quiet. No friends reached out asking what happened. Maybe she told them her version. Maybe she didn't tell them anything at all. That part stopped mattering. I lived like a shadow, paycheck to paycheck, black coffee, long nights, notebooks half filled with thoughts I couldn't say aloud. Frank, the old vet I rented from, never pried. We sometimes drank in silence on the porch. I think he understood more from that silence than anyone else ever did. He'd look at me, offer another beer, nod like he knew what I was carrying. We never talked about it. Didn't need to. Then one rainy Tuesday, I saw her. It wasn't planned. I wasn't looking. I was grabbing groceries on the way back from a shift. My boots were wet, my shoulders aching, my body running on 3 hours of broken sleep. I turned into the frozen food aisle, and there she was, 20 feet away, standing by the glass door with a grocery basket. She didn't see me. She was laughing with someone else. A man, shorter than me, well-dressed, maybe mid-40s, clean hands, no uniform, no limp, no war, no past. He said something and she leaned into him. Not the way strangers leaned in, the way people do when they've already crossed that invisible line of touch and comfort. Her hand brushed his arm, then stayed there. I just watched. Not frozen, not angry, just still. She looked happy, or at least like someone who no longer thought about what she'd done. And me, I felt nothing. Not jealousy, not rage, not even regret. Just this deep,
slow certainty in my chest, like a cold breath filling my lungs. This was the proof. Not the affairs, not the files, not her confession. This, her moving on without a glance back, like I never existed. Like I'd been a layover on the way to someone easier, someone simpler, someone untouched by the weight I carried. She never saw me, or maybe she did and chose not to react. Either way, I left the store without buying anything. Drove home in silence, hand gripping the steering wheel like it was the only real thing in the world. Rain smacked the windshield, headlights smeared across the road like ghosts. That night, I didn't write, I didn't drink. I just sat on the floor of my room, back against the wall, and stared at the blank drywall until sunrise. Not thinking, not reliving, just existing. There's a kind of stillness you reach after a storm. Not peace, not clarity, just quiet. Heavy quiet. And in that quiet, you finally realize no one's coming to save you. No apology, no redemption, no final scene where they say I was wrong. And that's okay. I never got closure. I stopped waiting for it. Some betrayals don't get bookends. Some people never look back. And some wounds don't scar. They just stay raw under the skin, dull and familiar. You learn to live around them. People think survival looks like a comeback, like healing, rebuilding, becoming stronger. But sometimes survival is just not disappearing. Waking up, breathing, making your own coffee, watching the light change through cracked blinds, and choosing not to vanish again. She was the last person I trusted. And now, trust is a language I no longer speak. But I'm still here. And for now, that's enough.